The Tablet of Cebes is an allegorical work of ancient Greek philosophy, likely written in the Hellenistic period. Scholars say probably by a pseudonymous author of the 1st or 2nd century. Some attribute it to the historical Cebes. Cebes was an ancient Greek philosopher from Thebes, a student of Socrates, and is featured in Plato's dialogue titled Phaedo, where he is one of the speakers represented as an earnest seeker after virtue and truth, who questions Socrates about the immorality of the soul. And as this piece of literature is about virtue, it would seem befitting that the work would be attributed to Cebes. Hello and welcome. I am Daisy, your hostess. Yes, I can see that some of you know what time it is. We are boarding our time machine and traveling back in time to ancient Greece. In this video, we are joining a group of youths, and by the gist of it, they are looking at a painting and they appeared confused. The painting depicts the realm of life, which includes 5 enclosures that reflect different psychological stages of life, beginning with origins and sequentially moving through indulgence, retribution, discipline, and finally arriving at true happiness. I suppose for some of us that have put some time into life, we can make better sense of what this painting is about, which explains the innocence of these youths who seem to be having quite difficulty making out what this scene is. Things get interesting when an elder approaches them and explains its meaning. Now, before we join them, I'd like to share a few things that I observed. I did gaze into my crystal ball, so I do have an edge, and I will tell you what I find fascinating. And it's how we get a glimpse of the culture when we read literature, whether it be historical data, poetry, stories, ancient pharmacology books, all that sort of stuff. If we pay close attention, we can be so enriched and amazed at the human presence throughout history. And I keep saying sometimes, we sometimes allow ourselves to get bamboozled. And my favorite all-time story has now become The Emperor's New Clothes. Because too often, too many people want to tell us something and we're looking at it and it's like, no, it's not really what, I don't see that. But because we want to go along, we don't want to, make waves, we kind of, don't say anything. But I think it's time, or I think it's already happening, that those little boys and girls that can see the truth are speaking up. And it's about time. So anyway, we get a sense of location when the author talks of the Samian or Elian sages, which points to the Greek island of Samos. This was a center of Ionian culture, and the use of the word ion in this work marks of a great time in Greek history, which introduced historically the Ionic culture of ancient Greece. It flourished from the Archaic period, from 700 to 500 BC, through the classical period of the 5th or 4th century BC. The Ionians were characterized by a spirit of intellectual curiosity and inquiry, leading to groundbreaking developments in philosophy, science, and mathematics. While geographically the Elian region would be miles away, the Ellis' main claim to fame was its control over the sanctuary at Olympia and the Olympic Games in the 8th century BC. So grab your belongings, we are getting teleported to the temple. Where else would you go to enjoy intelligent dialogue in ancient times? This temple, we know, is dedicated to Cronus, when the author describes, quote, "this dome to Saturn's awful name," end quote. Saturn was a name given to Cronus when the Romans identified the Greek Titan with their own god Saturn. He was the ruler of a golden age in Italy, teaching agriculture and establishing an era of peace and prosperity. And mind you, the Roman and the Greeks, those are two different things, and coming together, it's just interesting how you begin to see how one culture steals from the other. To do what? To merge, and that's kind of interesting. I don't know what your opinion about that is. But anyway, another place I want you to keep an eye out for is when the author mentions the Corycian Bowers. This actually is a real place located on the slopes of Mount Parnassus in Greece, near Delphi. Of special note in this small piece of work is that it brings to life or confirms the era of the mysteries and rites. So just remember, this author is coming off the tail of that time in history. And so he's recounting this thing on virtues. So to this day, this particular cave is considered a sacred cave as it was used for religious rituals, with evidence of worship dating back to the Neolithic period and continuing through antiquity. That's what the scholars say. So the cave was sacred to the Corycian nymphs and the god Pan in Greek mythology, serving as a significant site for ordinary people and shepherds to connect with the divine, potentially as a less expensive or more humble alternative to the main Delphi oracle. According to archaeological finds, includes knuckle bones used for divination and other votives. These finds confirm its use as a place of worship and prophecy. This literature introduced to me a new word, astragaloi, and that refers to the marked and cut of knuckle bones of sheep, or similarly shaped imitations in bronze or wood that served as divination dice in the ancient times. So if we look at our ancient map, we know where we are. Specifically at the Temple of Cronus, which was dedicated together with his wife Rhea and existed near the temple of the Olympian Zeus in Athens. With this, we also learn that we are among a polytheist people. Exciting times indeed, as the phrase "the Theban pest" is thrown at us, which simply refers to the Sphinx of Greek mythology, which was a female monster with the body of a lion, the head and breast of a woman, eagle wings, and according to some, it had a serpent's tail. She was sent by the gods to plague the town of Thebes as punishment for some ancient crime, preying on its youth and devouring all who failed to solve her riddle. There's a Greek myth story of the hero Oedipus and the Sphinx. Perhaps I'll bring it to the channel to share with you. Anyways, there are other Greek concepts entwined in this small work. As many know, the Greeks were way cool, as in ancient Greek mythology, concepts were personified. The author introduces delusion. Delusions in ancient Greek mythology was personified by Aete, the goddess of delusion, recklessness, folly, and ruin. She was often depicted as a mischievous, blind spirit who led people and even gods into irrational, self-destructive behavior, leading people into error and ultimately bringing about their downfall. Of course, delusion would be mentioned in a piece on virtue, right? And it wouldn't be complete if we didn't have the full package of the Furies, sometimes also called the Erinyes. And these were goddesses of vengeance who pursued and punished those who committed heinous crimes, particularly family murders, impiety, and oaths. It was said that the Furies were terrifying, winged beings with snakes for hair and bloodshot eyes, often draped in darkness and armed with whips. Their torment drove their victims to madness and despair. Yes, the thought of running into that, even in broad daylight, would make anyone seek to strengthen one's character and pursue a virtuous life. Now, the virtues of Greek mythology refer to the cardinal virtues: prudence, which is wisdom, justice, fortitude, and courage, and temperance, moderation, as espoused by Greek philosophers like Plato and Aristotle. Which, by the way, I do have a couple of videos on Plato. Make sure to peruse through my playlist later, okay? So, these virtues represent moral excellence and highlight the key characteristic necessary for a good life and a just society. So this is an era when we did not have what we have today with formal religion and formal laws as we know them today. And so those are different times, right? Interesting though that they had so much going on, and this was really paramount to the Greek culture, to the Greek thought, and Greek ethics, that not only were the virtues personified, but they were often embodied by gods and heroes within the Greek mythology. As the Furies were mentioned, so were the Fates. These were goddesses. Yes, especially when talking about people with pride and education. And the author was a bit cryptic when he said that the Fates communicated by heavenly signs and sent warnings to these people that were educated and had too much pride not to get too ahead of themselves by talking and not doing for themselves what they preach. Let me add two other goddesses who were mentioned indirectly, both fortune and wisdom. Fortune is personified by the goddess Tish, and wisdom is personified by the goddess Athena. Now, moving away from the myth culture of the Greeks and their lovely etheric way that they bring to life words, the author gives us a peek of some of his own philosophical influence by the mention of both Socrates and Plato, both prominent figures in ancient Greek philosophy. Socrates lived from approximately 470 BC to 399 BC, while Plato lived from approximately 428 BC to 348 BC. And these seem to be fascinating times, the era before structured religion as we know it today. I mention religions because, along with politics, both, I believe, have played a major role in the historical governance or control of peoples. And through that, we come to that place where I say, as we continue looking at the past and moving on to the future or into the future, whichever way you want to look at it, we stand on those shoulders of giants. Socrates and Plato significantly influenced the modern world, one through the Socratic method of teaching, which fosters critical thinking and inquiry, especially in legal and educational settings, and Plato's ideas on a merit-based society and the concept of abstract forms shaped modern political thought, and even theological concepts like the Christian idea of heaven. It is looking back that we can uncover the Maya and see the crumbs of truth. Not only does this piece of work give us insight to the theosophy and philosophy, but also the medicine. The author brings to life two characters mentioned in Homer's Iliad, the physicians Asclepius, known as the god of medicine, and his son Machaon, known for his surgical skills. And in just a couple of lines, we know the advances that have been made in the sciences of health of that time, as these physicians were skilled in purging diseases of the body and also understood something about the mind and psychosomatic diseases. Here's a quote to look out for. "But if the patient all control despise, just victim of his stubborn will he dies." End quote. And even though it was like a flash, we are reminded of the crucial role of snakes, the understanding of its poison followed by developing its antidotes. Those who knew the formula for the antidote were sought after, and one such person was the infamous Medea. No wonder we see so many snakes depicted in ancient art, as well as the snake and the caduceus of the medicine staff. And the author slipped this one in. It did not go unnoticed by me. The mind-altering drugs of the famous purple concoction. Even I would be over fairy fields and through Elysian groves, seeing glittering visions delights, the sweet delirium feeds. Yeah, it is in reflection of one's life, through intellectual and moral development, stepping towards virtue and true knowledge, that wisdom, by her rules, and her rules alone, with a healing heart removes the blindness and leads us ultimately to happiness. Come, I see the elder is about to speak. Let's listen in. The Table of Cebes, or The Picture of Human Life, translated from the Greek by Thomas Scott. 1754. This book is in the public domain. The Table of Cebes. While Saturn's fane with solemn step we trod, and viewed the votive honors of the god, a pictured tablet over the portal raised, attached our eye, in wonder lost we gazed. The pencil there some strange device had wrought, and fables all its own disguised the thought. Nor camp it seemed, nor city, the design, whose moral mocked our labor to divine, was a walled court, where rose another bound, and higher still, a third still, lessening ground. The nether area opened at a gate, where a vast crowd impatient seemed to wait. Within, a group of female figures stood, in motley dress, a sparkling multitude. Without, in station at the port, was seen a venerable form, in act and mien, like some great teacher who, with urgent tongue, authoritative, warned the rushing throng. From doubt to doubt we wandered, when appeared a sire, whose thus the hard solution cleared. Strangers, that allegoric scene, I guess, conquers your skill. Our home-born, wits no less, a foreigner long since, whose noble mind learning's best culture to strong genius joined. Here lived, conversed, and showed the admiring age another Samian or Elian sage. He reared this dome to Saturn's awful name, and gave that portrait to eternal fame. He reasoned much, high argument he chose, high as this theme his great conceptions rose. Such wisdom flowing from a mouth but young, I heard astonished, and enjoyed it long. Him oft I heard this moral piece expound, with nervous eloquence and sense profound. Father, if leisure with thy will conspire, yield, yield that comment to our warm desire. Free to bestow, I warn you first, beware. Danger impends, which summons all your care. Wise, virtuous, blessed, whose heart our precepts gain, abandoned, blind, and wretched, who disdain. For know, our purpose theme resembles best the famed enigma of the Theban pest. The interpreter a plighted crown enjoyed, the stupid perished, by the Sphinx destroyed. Count folly as a Sphinx to all mankind. Her problem, how is good and ill defined? Misjudging here, by folly's law we die, not instant victims of her cruelty. From day to day our reasoning part she wounds, devours its strength, its noblest powers confounds, awakes the last of punishment, and tears the mind with pangs which guilty life prepares. With opposite effect, where thoughtful skill discerns the boundaries of good and ill, folly must perish, and the illumined breast, to virtue favored, is like the immortals blessed. Give audience, then, with no unheeding ear. O haste, no heedless auditors stand here. With strong desire, in dread suspense we wait, so great the blessing, and the bane so great. Instant he raised his oratorial hand, and said, our eye he guided with a wand. Behold life's pencil scene, the natal gate, the numbers thronging into mortal state. Which danger's path, and which to safety bears, that ancient genius of mankind declares. See him aloft, benevolent he bends, one hand is pointing, one a roll extends reason's imperial code, by heaven impressed in living letters on the human breast. Opposed to him, delusion plies her part, with skin of borrowed snow, and blush of art, with Hippocratic fawn, and eyes askance whence soft infection steals in every glance. Her faithless hand presents a crystal bowl, whose poisonous draught intoxicates the soul. Error and ignorance infused compose the fatal beverage which her fraud bestows. Is that the hard conditions of our birth? Must all drink error who appear on earth? All. Yet in some their measure drowns the mind, others but taste, less erring and less blind. The opinions and desires and pleasures rise behind the gate, thick glittering on our eyes, thick as bright atoms in the solar ray, diverse their drapery and profusely gay. These tempting forms, each like a minstrel's dressed, our early steps with powerful charms arrest. Soon as we enter life, with various art of dalliance they assail the unguarded heart. All promise joy, we rush to their embrace. To bliss or ruin here begins our race. Happy, thrice happy, who entrust their youth to right opinions and ascend to truth, whom wisdom tutors, whom the virtues hail, and with their own substantial feast regale. The rest are harlots, by their flatteries won. In chase of empty science we run. Our fortune's vanities pursue, and stray with sensual pleasure in more dangerous way. See the mad rounds their giddy followers tread, delusion's cup strong working in their head. Vast as one shoal of fools have deluged through, succeeding shoals the buffy farce renew. Who on that globe stands stretching to her flight? Wild seems her aspect, and bereaved of sight. Fortune, blind, frantic, deaf, with restless wings, the world she ranges and her favors flings. Flings and refumes, and plunders and bestows. Caprice divides the blessings and the woes. Her grace unstable as her tottering ball, whenever she smiles, she meditates our fall. When most we trust her, we are cheated most. In desolating loss, we mourn our boast. Her cruel blast invades our hasty fruit, and withers all our glory at the root. What mean those multitudes around her? Why such motley attitudes perplex our eye? Some in the act of wildest rapture leap in agony, some wring their hands and weep. The unreasoning crowd to passion's sequel blind, by passion first and impotent of mind, competitors in clamorous suit, to share the toys she tosses with regardless air. Trifles, for solid worth by most purified, bright-colored vapors and fantastic good, the pageantry of wealth, the blaze of fame, titles, and offspring to extend the name, huge strength or beauty which the strong obey, the victor's laurel and despotic sway, these, humored in their vows, with lavish praise, the glory of the gracious goddess raise. Those others, losers in her chanceful game, shorn of their all, or frustrate in their aim, in murmurs of their hard mishap complain, and curse her partial and malignant reign. Now, further still in this low central ground, traverse yon flowery mounts sequestered bound. In the green center of those citron shades, long gardens, fountains, bowery walks, and glades, voluptuous sin her powerful spell employs, souls to seduce, seducing she destroys. See, lewdness loosely zoned her bosom bears. See, riot her luxurious bowl prepares. There stands avidity with ardent eye, their dimpling adulation smooths her lie. There flationed to what end? In watch for prey, fortune's infatuate favorites of a day. These they cares, they flatter, they entreat, to try the pleasure of their soft retreat. Life disencumbered, frolicsome and free, all ease, all mirth, and high felicity. Whomever by their inveigling arts they win, to tread that magic paradise of sin. In airy dance his jocund hours skim round, sparkles the bowl, the festal songs resound. His blood ferments, fired by the wanton glance, and his loose soul dissolves in amorous trance. While circulating joys to joys succeed, while new delights the sweet delirium feed. The prodigal, in raptured fancy, roves over fairy fields and through Elysian groves, sees glittering visions in succession rise, and laughs at Socrates, the chaste and wise. Till sobered by distress, awake, confused, amazed, he knows himself a wretch abused. A short illusion his imagined feast, himself the game, himself the slaughtered beast. Now, raving for his squandered wealth in vain, slave to those tyrant jilts he drags their chain. Compelled to suffer hard and hungry need, compelled to dare each soul and desperate deed. Villain or knave, he joins the sharping tribe, robs, alters, or is perjured for a bribe. Stabs for a purse, his country pawns for gold, to every crime of blackest horror fold. Shiftless, at length, of all resource bereft, in the dire gripe of punishment he's left. Observe this straight-mouthed cave. The unwilling light just shows the dismal deep descent to night. In centuries see these haggard crones, whose brows rude locks overhang, and frown their forehead plows. Swarthy and foul their shriveled skin behold, and fluttering shreds their vile defense from cold. High brandishing her laugh, with stern regard, stands punishment and ever-waking ward, while full in melancholy mopes behind, fixed, with her head upon her knees inclined, and frantic with remorseful fury, there fierce anguish stamps and rends her shaggy hair. Who that ill-featured spectre of a man, shivering in nakedness, so spare and wan? And she, whose eye aghast with horror flares, whose meagre form a sister's likeness bears? Loud lamentation, wild despair, all these fell vultures the devoted captive sees. Ah, dreadful durance, with these fiends to dwell! What tongue the terrors of his soul can tell? Worried by these foul fiends, the wretch begins sharp penance, wages of remembered sins. The deeper sinks, plunged in the pit of woe, worse sufferings in worse hell to undergo, unless, rare guest, repentance over the gloom diffuse her radiance, and repeal his doom. She comes, meek-eyed, arrayed in grave attire, see right opinion, joined with good desire, handmaids of truth, with those an adverse pair, false wisdom's minions, that deceiving pair. Attend her solemn steps, the Furies flee. Come forth, she calls, come forth to liberty. Guilt harass thrall, thy future lot decide, and, pondering well, elect thy future guide. Momentous option. Choosing right, he'll find a sovereign medicine for his ulcer's mind, led to true wisdom, whose cathartic bowl recovers and beatifies the soul. Misguided else, a counterfeit he'll gain, whose art is only to amuse the brain. From vice to studious folly now he flies, from bliss still erring, still betrayed by lies. O heavens, where end the rifts we mortals run? And this how dreadful, yet how hard to shun? Say, Father, what distinctive marks declare the counterfeit of wisdom? View her there, at yonder gate, with decent port. She stands, her spotless form that second court commands. Styled wisdom by the crowd, the thinking few know her disguise, the phantom of the true. Skilled in all learning, skilled in every art to grace the head, not meliorate the heart. The saved who meditate their noble flight from a bad world to wisdom's lofty height, just touching at this ion, for short repast, then speed their journey forward to its last. This the sole path? Another path there lies, the plain man's path, without proud science wise. Who they which transverse this deluder's bound? A busy scene, all thought or action round? Her lovers, whom her specious beauty warms, who grasp in vision truth's immortal charms, vain of the glory of a false embrace. Fierce philogiftic tribes, a wrangling race, bards wrapped beyond the moon on fancy wings, and mighty masters of the vocal strings, those who on labored speeches waste their oil, those who in crabbed calculations toil, who measure earth, who climb the starry road, and human fates by heavenly signs forebode. Pleasured philosophers, Lyceum's pride, disdainful soaring up to heights untried. All who in learned trifles spin their wit, or comment on the works by trifles wit. Who are yon active females, like in face to the lewd harlots, in the neither space, vile agents of voluptuous sin? The fame, admitted here? Even here, eternal shame. They boast some rarer, less ignoble spoils, art, wit, and reason tangled in their toils, and fancy, with their pinions in her rear, enjoys these studious walks, no stranger here. While their wild hypothesis and learned romance too oft lead up to the philosophic dance, still these ingenious heads, alas, retain delusions does, still the vile dregs remain of ignorance with madding folly joined, and a foul heart pollutes the embellished mind. Nor will presumption from their souls recede, nor will they from one vicious plague be freed, till, weary of these vanities, they found the exalted way to truth's enlightened ground, quaffed her cathartic, and all cleansed within by the strong energy from pride and sin, are healed and favored. But loitering here they spend life's precious hour in thinking to no end. From science up to science let them rise, and arrogate the swelling style of wise. Their wisdom's folly, impotent and blind, which cures not one distemper of the mind. Enough, discover now the faithful road, which mounts us to the joys of truth's abode. Survey this solitary waste, which rears no bush, nor herb, nor cottage there appears. At distance see yon straight and lonely gate, no crowds at the forbidden entrance wait. Its avenue a rugged rocky soil, travelled with painful step and tedious toil. Beyond the wicket, towering in the skies, see difficulties cragged mountains rise, narrow and sharp the ascent, each edge a brink whence to vast depth dire precipices sink. Is that the way to wisdom? Dreadful way! The landscape frowns with danger and dismay. Yet higher still, around the mountain's brow winds yon huge rock, whose steep smooth sides allow no track. Its top two sister figures grace, health's rosy habit glowing in their face. With arms protended over the verge they lean, the promptitude of friendship in their mien, the powers of continence and patience, their station by wisdom. Her commission bear the rose, the spirit of her fainting son, thus far advanced, and urge him on. Courage, they call, the coward sloth disdain, yet a while, the noble toil sustain. A lovely path soon opens to your sight. But how climbs that rock bare slippery height? These generous guides, who virtue's course befriend, in succor of her pilgrims swift descend, draw up their trembling charge, then, smiling, greet with kind command to rest his weary feet. With their own force his panting breast they arm, and with their own intrepid spirit warm. Next, plight their guidance in his future way to wisdom, and in rapturous view display the blissful road. There it invites your eyes. How smooth and easy to the foot it lies. Through beauteous land, from all annoyance clear of thorny evil and perplexing fear. Yon lofty groves delicious bowers to gain. You cross the expanse of this enameled plain, a meadow with eternal beauty bright, beneath a purer heaven overflowed with light. Full in the center of the plain, behold a court far flaming with its wall of gold and gate of diamond, where the righteous rest. This clime their home, their country of the blessed. Here all the virtues dwell, communion sweet, with happiness, who rules the peaceful seat. In station at the effulgent portal, see a beauteous form of mildest majesty. Her eyes how piercing, how sedate her mien, mature in life her countenance serene, spirit and solid thought each feature shows, and her plain robe with state unsteady flows. She stands upon a cube of marble, fixed at the firm rock, two lovely nymphs betwixt, her daughters, copies of her looks and air, her candid truth, the sweet persuasion there. She is wisdom. In her steadfast die, behold the expressive type of certainty, certain her way, and permanent of the deed of gift substantial to her friends, decreed. She gives the confidence erect and clear. She gives magnanimous contempt of fear, and bids the invulnerable mind to know her safety from the future shafts of woe. O treasure, richer than the sea or land, but why without the walls her destined stand? There standing, she presents her potent bowl, divine cathartic, which restores the soul. This asks a comment. In some dire disease, Machaon's skill first purges off the lees, then clear and strong the purple current flows, and life, renewed in every member, glows. But if the patient all control despise, just victim of his stubborn will he dies. So wisdom, by her rules, with healing art expels delusions, mischiefs from the heart. Blindness and error and high boasting pride, intemperance, lust, fierce wrath's impetuous tide, hydropic avarice, all the plagues behind, which in the first mad court oppress the mind. Thus purged, her pupil through the gate she brings. The virtues hail their guest, and guest enraptured sings. Behold the spotless band, celestial charms. Seeing that with awe chastises whom it warms, no harlotry, no paint, no gay excels, but beauty unaffected as their dress. See knowledge grasping a resurgent star, see fortified in panoply of wars. Justice her equal scale aloft displays, and rights both human and divine she weighs. There is moderation, all the pleasures bound, in brazen chains her dreaded feet surround. Their bounteous liberality expands to want, to worth, her ever-loaded hands. The slorid hue of temperance, her side adorned by health, a nymph in blooming pride. Lo, soft-eyed meekness holds a curbing rein, anger's high-mettled spirit to refrain, while moral order tunes her golden lyre, and white-robed probity completes the choir. O fairest of all fair, O blissful state! What hopes sublime our ravished souls dilate! Hopes unabortive, if the doctrine taught fashion the manners into habit wrought. Yes, 'tis resolved we'll every nerve employ, live then, restored, and reap the promised joy. But whither do the virtues lead their trust? To happiness, reward of the just. Look upward to the hill beyond the grove. A sovereign pile extends its front above. Stately and strong, the lofty castle stands. Its boundless prospect all the courts commands. Within the porch, high on a jasper throne, the imperial mother by her form is known. Bright as the morn, when smiling on the hills, earth, air, and sea with vernal joy she fills. Rich without lavish cost her vest behold, in colors of the sky, and fringed with gold. A tiara, wreathed with every flower that blows, of liveliest tints around her temples glow. Eternal bloom her snowy temples binds, fearless of burning suns and blasting winds. Now, with a crown of wondrous power, her hand, assistant round her, all the virtues stand, adorns her hero, honorable meed of conquest won by many a valiant deed. What conquests? Formidable, beasts subdued. Laboring he fought, he routed, he pursued. Once a weak prey, beneath their force he cowered, overthrown and worried and well nigh devoured, till roused from his inglorious sloth, possessed with generous ardor kindling in his breast, lord of himself, the victor now constrains those hostile monsters in his powerful chains. Explain those savage beasts at war with men. Error and ignorance, which heat the van, heart-knowing grief and loud lamenting woe, incontinence, a wild destroying foe, rapacious avarice, cruel numbers more, over all the triumphs now, their slave before. O great achievements, more illustrious far these triumphs than the bloody wreaths of war. But say, what salutary power is shed by the fair crown with decks of heroes' head? Most beatific, for possessing this he lives, rich owner of man's proper bliss, bliss independent or on wealth or power, fame, birth, or beauty, or voluptuous hour. His hopes, divorced from all exterior things, within himself the fount of pleasure springs ever in the self-approving breast, and his own honest heart's a constant feast. Where's next his steps? He measures back his way, conducted by the virtues, to survey his first abode. The giddy crowd below, wasting the wretched span in crime, they show how in the whirl of passions they are tossed, and shipwrecked on the lurking shelves are lost. Here fierce ambition, hailing in her chain, the mighty, there despicable train, impure in lust, inglorious fetter bound, and slaves of avarice rooting up the ground, thralls of vainglory, thralls of swelling pride, unnumbered fools, unnumbered plagues beside. All powerless they to burst the galling band, to spring aloft and reach yon happy land, entangled, impotent the way to find, the clear instruction blotted from their mind which the good genius gave. Guilt's gloomy fears becloud their sons and sadden all their years. I stand convinced, but yet perplexed in thought, why to review a well-known scene he's brought. Scene rudely known, uncertain and confused, his judgment by illusions was abused. His evil was not evil, nor his good aught else but vanity misunderstood. Confounding good and evil, like the throng, his life, like theirs, was action always wrong. Enlightened now is the true bliss of man. He shapes his altered course by wisdom's plan, and, bless himself, beholds his weeping eyes, the madding world as hospital of sighs. This retrospection ended, where succeeds his course? Wherever his wise volition leads, wherever it leads, safety attends him still. No safer should he on Apollo's hill, among the nymphs, among the vocal powers, dwell in the sanctum of Corycian bowers, honored by all, the friend of humankind, beloved physician of the sin-sick mind, not Asclepius more, whose powers to save redeems his patient from the yawning grave. But nevermore shall his old, restless foes awake his fears, nor trouble his repose? Never, in righteous habitude inured, from passion's baneful anarchies secured, in each enticing scene, each instant hard, that sovereign antidote his mind will guard, like him, who of some virtuous drug possessed, grasps the fell viper coiled within her nest, hears her dire hissings, sees her terrors rise, and, unappalled, destruction's tooth defies. Yon troops, in motion from the mount explain, various to view, for there's a goodly train, with garlands crowned, advance with comely pace, noble their port, and in each tranquil face joy sparkles. Others, a bare-headed throng, battered and graft, drag their slow steps along, captives of some strange female crew. The crowned, long seeking, save arrived at wisdom's bound, exult in her imparted grace. The rest, those on whom wisdom, unprevailing, pressed her healing aid, rejected from her care, in evil plight their wicked days they wear. Those two, who difficulties hill had gained, there barely stopped, by dastard sloth detained. Apostate now, in thorny wilds they rove, pursuing Furies, scourge the caitiff drove. Sorrows which gnaw, remorseful thoughts which tear, blindness of mind, and heart oppressing fear, with all the contumelious rout of shame, and every ill, and every hateful name. Relapse to lewdness, and her sensual queen, unblushing at themselves, but drunk with spleen, wisdom's high worth their cankered tongues dispraise, revile her children, and blaspheme her ways. Deluded wretches, thus their madness cries, dull mopes, weak dupes of philosophic lies, uncomforted, unjoyous, unblessed, lost from the pleasures here at large possessed. What pleasures boast they? Pleasures of the stews, pleasures which riot's frantic bowls ensues. These high fruition their gross souls repute, and man's chief good to sink into a brute. But who that lovely bevy, blithe and gay, so smoothly gliding down the hilly way? Those are the opinions, who have guided right the unexperienced to the plain of light. Returning, new adventures to bring, the blessings of the last arriving they sing. Why, ingress yielded to their favored ward, among the virtues, to themselves debarred? Opinion's foot is never, never found, where knowledge dwells, 'tis interdicted ground. At wisdom's gate the opinions must resign their charge, those limits their employ confine. Thus trading barks, skilled in the wearied road, to distant climes convey their precious load, then turn their prow, light bounding over the main, and with new traffic store their keels again. And thus far is clear, but yet untold remains what the good genius to the crowd ordains. Just on the verge of life, he bids them hold a spirit with erected courage bold. Never he calls on fortune faith rely, nor grasp her dubious gifts as property. Let not her smile transport her frowny dismay, nor praise, nor blame, nor wonder at her sway, which reason never guides. 'Tis fortune still, capricious chance, and arbitrary will. Bad bankers, vain of treasures not their own, with foolish rapture hug the trusted loan. Impatient when the powerful bond demands its unremembered covenant from their hands. Unlike to such, without a sigh restore what fortune lends, anon she'll lavish more. Repenting of her bounty, snatch away, yes, seize your patrimonial fund for prey. Embrace her proffered boon, but instant rise, spring upward, and secure a lasting prize, the gift which wisdom to her sons divides. Knowledge, whose beam the doubting judgment guides, scatters the central fog, and clear to view distinguishes false interest from the true. Flee, flee to this, with unabating pace, nor parley for a moment at the place where pleasure and her harlots tempt, nor rest but at false wisdom's inn, a transient guest. For short reflection at her table fit, and taste what science may your palate hit. Then wing your journey forward, till you reach true wisdom, and imbibe the truth she'll teach. Such is the advice the friendly genius gives. He perishes who scorns, who follows lives, and thus this moral piece instructs. If aught is mystic still, reveal your doubting thought. Thanks, generous sire. Tell then the transient bait the genius grants us at false wisdom's gate. Whatever in arts or science is found, of solid use in their capacious round, these Plato reasons like a curbing rein, unruly youth from devious starts refrain. Must we, solicitous our souls to save, assistance from these previous studies crave? Necessity there's none, will not deny their merit is from less utility. But they contribute, we aver, no part to heal the manners and amend the heart. An author's meaning, in a tongue unknown, may glimmer through translation in our own. Yet masters of his language, we might gain some trivial purposes by tedious pain. So in the sciences, though rudely taught, we may attain the little that we ought, yet accurately known they might convey more light, not wholly useless in its way. But virtue may be reached through all her rules, without the curious subtleties of schools. How? Not the learned excel the common shoal, and powerful aids to meliorate the soul? Blind as the crowd, alas, too good and ill, entangled by the like corrupted will. What boasts the man of letters over the rest? Skilled in all tongues, of all the art possessed? What hinders but he sink into a sot, a libertine or villain in a plot, miser or knave, or whatsoever you'll name, of moral lunacy and reason's shame? Scandals to rise? How then for living right avail those studies and their vaunted light beyond the vulgar? Nothing, but disclose the cause from whence this strange appearance grows. Held by a potent charm, in this retreat they dwell, content with nearness to the seat of virtuous wisdom. Near, methinks, in vain, since numbers oft from out of the nether plane, scraped from the snare of lewdness and excess, undevious to her lofty station press, yet past these lettered clans. What, then, are these immoral things advantaged over the lees of human race? In moral things we find these duller or less tractable of mind. Decipher that. Pride averts their eyes from offered light, in self-sufficience wise, although unknowing they presume to know, clogged with that vain conceit they creep below, nor can mount up to yon exalted bound. True wisdom's mansion by the humble found, not found by these, till the vain vision spread by false opinion in the learned head, repentance scatter, and deceived no more, they own the illusion which deceived before, that for true wisdom they embraced her shade, and hence the healing of their souls delayed. Strangers, these lessons oft revolving, hold fast to your hearts, and into habit mold. To this high scope life's whole attention bend. Despise aught else as erring from your end. Do thus, or unavailing is my care, and all the instruction dies away in air. And this concludes the reading of the Table of Cebes, translated from the Greek by Thomas Scott. I hope that you have enjoyed this as much as I have enjoyed bringing it to you. Please do hit the like button. If you know of anyone that might be interested in this, please share it with your family and friends, and subscribe to the channel.